takeaway number one, Texas A&M's in a great spot. There's no denying that, but they're just getting started. Okay, Saturday night, A&M and LSU, they've played 8 times in their history when both teams were ranked in the top 25. And do you realize that LSU had won all 8? That's right. LSU against a ranked A&M team was undefeated prior to Saturday night. And if you look at the first half of that football game, it was looking a lot like this might happen again. I mean, Garrett Nussmeier was just picking apart the Aggies secondary. The defense was putting a lot of pressure on the opposing quarterback. That at the time was Connor Wigman. And they really couldn't do a whole lot offensively. So it's halftime. Sitting there and starting to evaluate the situation, and you're sitting there thinking, all right, what's going to happen here? Is A&M really going to struggle this much at home in front of a chaotic and home field environment? Not so fast, my friend. Coach Elko decides to make a very difficult decision. He benches Connor Wigman in favor of Marcel Reed, and then, boom, 5 straight scoring drives for the Aggies. I'd say that's a pretty good momentum shift, if you will, and it further proves to me that this Texas A&M team is just different this year. They're different. For a long time, and I'm from Texas, it would have been very easy to describe A&M as a lot of sizzle and not so much steak. Or as we like to say in Texas, as all hat, no cattle. All right. Well, they're now 8 games into Mike Elko's first season, and A&M currently sits atop the SEC. Entering November, they're the only team in the SEC without a conference loss, and they are a legitimate contender at this point to make the college football playoff. But what's most encouraging is how far ahead of schedule do they feel? Don't they feel like they're arriving very early here as it comes to the playoff? Like, okay, Elko's second, third year, sure, that's when they'll make their run. But year one, after a loss in the first game, now winning 7 in a row, their longest win streak since 2020, which do we even count that year as a weird year anyways? So you're looking at Mike Elko. He's a builder now, but he has proven in the past to get things done rather quickly. You take a 3-win team for Duke in 2021, 9 wins his first year. That's the second most in program history. He watches Riley Leonard become a star. Now he steps into a much better situation with a super talented roster, but there was a lot of dysfunction over the last few years. They had talented, highly rated recruits, but not all of them were always rowing in the same direction, and we saw several of which leave the program as a result. But you know what Elko did is, since he'd been there before, he was able to hold on to the key pieces, the guys like Shamar Turner. And then he was able to look and assess the roster and say, all right, here, I got to go and I got to make sure that I hang on to this guy, I hang on to that guy. We got to keep a couple guys on the offensive line. Where else do we have some issues? Well, we need some guys in the secondary. They go out, they get 7 guys in the portal at defensive back. 4 of those 7 are making a difference, including BJ Mays, the UAB transfer that had a couple picks this past weekend. They were already really good up front, but they didn't rest on their laurels. They said, you know what, yeah, we'll take Nick Scorton, the Big Ten's leader in sacks from Purdue. We'll take him, and now this defensive line is, for the most part, unblockable. A&M is 5-0 in the SEC, and it hasn't necessarily been smooth sailing. It'd be easy to say, hey, they're 5-0, and it's, you know, they haven't played an outrageously difficult schedule. They've been in kind of cruise control. Y'all, they've had adversity. I mean, Connor Wigman's been super up and down. He's also missed some time. They finally, after his most recent inconsistent performance, they decided to just pull the plug. He was 6 of 18 for 64 and was sacked 4 times in the first half of that football game. So they said, hey, man, this pass rush is a handful. Let's go with the more mobile Marcel Reed. And boom, look at the results. All right, he has 9 carries for 62 yards in the second half. Had a couple big plays, did make one fantastic throw, I thought, in the football game, but it really wasn't why they won the game. They completely dominated on the ground, and they outrushed LSU 242-24, which ultimately decided was the difference, and that was it. Here's the best part about it. It wasn't like it was a flawless performance. I mean, they got to protect the whole heck of a lot better. I think they need to be more productive in the passing game. They weren't great as far as penalties. A&M just beat a top 10 team and had 10 penalties for 100-plus yards. And yet they won the game by 15 points. That was their largest win after trailing by double digits at halftime against a top 10 opponent since 2006. Okay? That's pretty dang impressive. Really, really impressive when you look at just how everything worked out.